So before we get into the tutorials, I just want to go through some of the basics of Illustrator that'll help you get started. And as you go through the tutorials, I'll show you how to use the tools to achieve the results of creating the images. So when you first open up Illustrator, this is the start page, if you will, where you can create a new file. And you can see there's some predefined templates for sizes. So depending on what you're creating and what you're creating the graphic for, you can use these presets. You can also see down here, here are some recent files that I've worked on and about how long ago I worked on those. So you can go back and look at some of your older files and open those up as well. Over here, you can learn. There's a lot of tutorials beyond what I'm creating here, but what I'm trying to do is simplify some of these tools and steps for you to create certain images. Obviously, the learn tools here are maybe in some cases it could be more advanced, but there's always additional information and help there. You can see other files that have been deleted, shared, or your files. So we're going to start with a new file. So to create a new file, we'll just click on the new file button. It's going to look at some recent ones, some saved ones, different file types. When I'm doing graphics for whether it's a t-shirt or just creating the graphics that I have on my Etsy store, I usually use a 12 by 12 print image. So over here you can set the size. You can also choose whether you want it in feet and inches, yards, millimeters, centimeters, or pixels. Since I know I want a 12 by 12 inch working area, that's what I choose. And then for the raster, any raster effects, remember Illustrator is a vector-based program. I usually set the raster effects at a high resolution so that I get multiple pixels per inch. I'm going to click create, and that's going to get us started. It's going to give us a blank screen that we can work with. So it'll just take a second here as it processes. So this is our drawing workspace. Depending on your install of Illustrator, you should have a menu bar over here of tools or a toolbar. And then you also may have this other floating window that has some additional tabs. The ones that we're going to look at the most are the properties tab, the layer tab. You can see there are some others here as well. I added one called Pathfinder, and we'll look at that in a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. But these windows, if you pull the window button down, you can see the checkbox is properties. If I uncheck that, you'll see that properties panel disappears. If I go back to window and then turn on the properties box, you can see that comes back. So under window, you have a whole bunch of other windows that you can open. You can see, the Pathfinder, comments, other things, right? Again, don't get overwhelmed by all this. We're only going to look at a few of these tools. Also under view, you can see there's some smart guides, snap point, snap to glyph. So you'll see these come into play. Those are some of the tools I have set. There's ways to select objects, certain effects that we're going to apply. You can always go file, and this is where you're going to save and export. So we'll talk about that as we get into this as well. And then there's some editing tools, right? For cut, copy, paste. And then the object, you'll see, will work with some of these paths and shapes. All right. So that just gives you a quick overview. This is what I'm looking for to start with. There are different views that can be set up, but this one is the default, and I always try to work with the default. So if yours doesn't look like this, take a screen grab, and you can always upload it and ask for advice and say, this is what mine looks like. How do I get it to look like yours? And I'll show you how to do that. But this should be the default install when you open up Illustrator. So next I'm going to break it down. I'm going to go through some of the tools that I use most and show you how to simply use those just to get yourself comfortable and oriented with the Illustrator tools.